Jesus reveals. One phrase chosen ones use. Tonight destroys soul trap and activates Christ within. Within the ancient secret book of John lies a passage the early church attempted to destroy from every manuscript they discovered. This forbidden text reveals what actually occurs when a chosen soul departs the physical realm. The archonic forces construct an elaborate deception, a brilliant tunnel of false illumination. Beings masquerading as departed family members or celestial guardians, and a carefully orchestrated life review engineered to generate profound guilt and regret. At the conclusion of this masterful performance comes the invitation. You must return to complete unfinished lessons and balance accumulated karma. The vast majority of souls accept this narrative without question, voluntarily re-entering the reincarnation wheel, while their memories dissolve into oblivion. However, that same ancient text contains something the church could never completely eradicate. Teaching Jesus shared that terrified the archons more than any other wisdom. Not a prayer seeking assistance, not a plea for mercy, but a powerful declaration of truth. When a chosen one speaks this specific phrase at the threshold of death, or even while fully alive in the present moment, two simultaneous transformations occur that no archonic force can prevent or reverse. First, the entire mechanism of the soul trap loses its operational power. The false light, the guilt programming, the karmic deception, everything dissolves instantaneously. Second, the Christ consciousness, already present within Awakens, not gradually through years of spiritual practice, but immediately. This phrase doesn't request activation, it declares what has always been true but temporarily forgotten. Tonight, you're discovering exactly what this phrase is, why it simultaneously destroys the soul trap while awakening the Christ consciousness, and how to implement it, starting immediately. When your transition moment arrives, you'll already be vibrating at a frequency that archonic forces cannot touch or manipulate. This isn't theory or hopeful belief. This is recognition of your eternal nature. The church buried this teaching. The archons fear it, but those who discover it exit the reincarnation cycle permanently, conscious and sovereign. If you're ready to speak the phrase tonight, stay until the end where I'll guide you through the exact practice. Jesus taught his inner circle to comprehend why a single phrase can simultaneously dissolve the soul trap and activate Christ's consciousness. You must understand what both actually represent at the level of frequency and awareness. The soul trap operates through one fundamental deception, that you exist as separate from source and require external validation, external forgiveness, external permission to return home. The archons construct their entire post-death theater around reinforcing this core lie. The life review makes you believe you failed. The karma narrative convinces you of incompleteness. The false light makes you think salvation arrives from outside yourself. Every element is meticulously designed to keep you identified as a limited soul requiring reincarnation to repair itself. As long as you accept this lie, the trap functions perfectly. You volunteer to return. You consent to memory erasure. You re-enter the cycle believing it's necessary for your evolution. The Christ within represents the opposite, recognition to direct, knowing that you are not separate from source. You are source, experiencing itself through temporary limitation. The Christ isn't something you become through effort. It's what you've eternally been, temporarily veiled by forgetfulness. When Christ consciousness activates, you're not achieving a new stature, remembering your actual state, and that remembering occurs through recognition, not accumulation. You don't gradually build toward it. You simply recognize it's already present. Here's the crucial understanding. The soul trap and the dormant Christ are inversely related. The soul trap exists only because you've forgotten the Christ. The Christ remains dormant only because you believe the soul trap's deception. They're not two separate problems requiring two distinct solutions. They're one problem amnesia with one solution. When you declare the truth of what you are, the lie dissolves automatically. Not because you fought against it, but because lies cannot exist in the presence of recognized truth. When you illuminate a dark room, you don't battle the darkness. Darkness was only ever the absence of light. It vanishes. The moment light arrives, the phrase, Jesus taught, accomplishes exactly this. It's not a request for help from outside. It's a declaration of identity. And when you speak it with genuine recognition, not hope, not belief, but recognition of frequency of your awareness shifts instantaneously, making archonic manipulation impossible. The archonic forces operate at the frequency of separation, doubt, guilt, and incompleteness. The Christ consciousness operates at the frequency of unity, certainty, innocence, and wholeness. These frequencies cannot coexist in the same field. When you activate Christ frequency, archonic frequency cannot maintain coherence within your energetic field. The soul trap, being an archonic construct, simply stops functioning, not because you broke free through tremendous effort, but because you recognized you were never actually trapped. You were always free, temporarily believing you weren't. The Gospel of Thomas verse 70 captures this perfectly. If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have will kill you. The Christ within is what saves you, not Jesus saving you from outside, but the Christ you already are, recognized and brought forth. The soul trap is what destroys you spiritually, keeping you cycling through incarnations, losing memories, starting over repeatedly, never completing the return journey home. What makes this particular teaching extraordinarily dangerous to the archonic system is that they don't merely suppress it, they actively attack anyone approaching its discovery. Most spiritual teachings, even legitimate ones, still operate within the framework of seeking. You seek enlightenment. You seek Christ. You seek to return home. And as long as you're seeking, the archons can manipulate that seeking. They can pose as guides. They can create false paths. They can extend the journey indefinitely because seeking implies you don't yet possess what you're looking for. The soul remains in a state of incompleteness, and incomplete souls are controllable. They need external validation, external permission, external salvation. The entire reincarnation trap is built on this framework. You're incomplete. Come back and try again. Perhaps next lifetime you'll succeed. But this phrase doesn't operate in the seeking framework. It operates in the recognition framework. You're not trying to become the Christ. You're declaring you already are the Christ. You're not seeking to escape the soul trap. You're recognizing the trap only functioned because you temporarily forgot what you are. According to fragments preserved in the secret book of John and cross-referenced with the Gospel of Philip, Jesus revealed this teaching in a very specific context. It wasn't during his public ministry. It wasn't in the sermons to crowds. It was after the resurrection, during the 40 days he spent with his inner circle before ascending, and he revealed it, not as doctrine to be memorized, but as direct transmission. He would place his hand over each disciple's heart and speak the phrase first, so they could feel the frequency of the words before speaking them themselves. The text describes that, when he spoke, light would emanate from his chest and transfer to theirs not metaphorically, but visibly. Other disciples in the room could witness it occurring. What makes this moment critical is the timing. Jesus didn't teach this before his death and resurrection. He taught it afterward because the teaching only makes complete sense once you understand that death is not an ending. The resurrection wasn't about his physical body returning to life. It was a demonstration. He showed them that consciousness doesn't die, that the Christ is indestructible, and that what the archons called death is merely a transition point they've weaponized into a trap. Then, with that understanding firmly established, he gave them the phrase, the tool that transforms death from a trap into a doorway, the declaration that renders the false light powerless and activates Christ recognition so completely that the return home becomes inevitable. And he told them explicitly, when your time comes, speak this and you will not see death. Not that their bodies wouldn't die, but that they, the consciousness they actually are, would not experience death as loss, as ending, as separation. They would experience it as recognition, as homecoming, as the Christ finally freed from the limitation of form. This teaching was so powerful that the early church executed people for sharing it. The archons deploy massive interference when chosen ones discover it, because once you recognize what you are, their entire system of control loses power over you, not just in this life, but permanently. You're done. No more forgetting. No more cycling. No more memory erasures. The phrase Jesus taught to his inner circle, preserved in fragments across multiple Gnostic texts, and reconstructed by those who understood the pattern, is this: I am the Christ. I recognize myself as source. Not I follow the Christ. Not I seek the Christ. Not Christ save me, but I am the Christ. Present tense. Direct identification. You're not asking Christ to come to you. You're declaring that Christ is what you are. And the second part completes the recognition. I recognize myself as source. Not I'm connected to source. Not I came from source. But I am source experiencing itself right now in this form, the infinite expressing through the finite without losing its infinity. When you speak this phrase, you're not trying to become something you're not. You're stating what's already true, but forgotten. And here's what makes it devastatingly effective against the soul trap. The archons can only manipulate beings who believe they're separate from source. That's their entire operational framework. They appear as authorities because you believe you need authority outside yourself. They appear as judges because you believe you need judgment from outside yourself. They appear as guides offering return home because you believe home is somewhere else. But when you declare, I am the Christ, I recognize myself as source, you're not participating in their framework anymore. You're not asking permission. You're not seeking guidance. You're stating fact. And beings operating in deception cannot argue with someone operating in recognition. They have no leverage. The Christ within activates because you just called it by its true name, not the Christ far away or the Christ you hope to reach, but the Christ you are. And consciousness responds to recognition the way a tuning fork responds to its matching frequency. When you declare your identity, the dormant awareness of that identity floods active consciousness. It's not that something new arrives. It's that what was always present stops being ignored like a radio that was always receiving the signal, but the volume was turned down. You didn't fix the radio. You turned up the volume. In the moment you say this phrase with full recognition, your electromagnetic field shifts. Scientific instruments could measure this. If they were present, your heart coherence changes. Your brainwave patterns alter, but more importantly, your perceptual framework inverts. Instead of experiencing yourself as a small self looking at a big universe, you experience yourself as infinite awareness, temporarily focused through a singular perspective. The perspective doesn't disappear, but you recognize it's not the totality of what you are. You're not trapped in the perspective. You're using it. And that recognition changes everything about how you navigate existence, including death. The archons will still create their theater when you die. They'll still project the first light, the life review, the karmic story, but you won't believe it. Not because you're strong enough to resist, but because you're clear enough to see through it. When they say you need to come back, you'll recognize the lie immediately. And instead of engaging their theater, instead of trying to pass their tests or answer their questions, you'll simply declare, I am the Christ. I recognize myself as source. And they'll have no response, because that's not a plea they can deny or a request they can grant. It's a fact they cannot argue with. And the moment you declare it, the true light responds not their false light, but source itself recognizing its own awareness. And you return not as a soul petitioning for entry, but as consciousness recognizing it never left. Practicing this phrase while in a body, in a stable state of consciousness, prepares you so deeply that when death comes and the archons deploy their theater, you are not discovering your identity for the first time under pressure. You already know. You've already felt it, and that familiarity makes you unshakable. Here's how to use it starting tonight. Find 10 minutes where you won't be interrupted. Sit comfortably, but alert. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths to drop into focused presence. Then, speak the phrase out loud, not in your head. Out loud. Your voice creates vibration that carries the frequency into physical space. Say it slowly, I am the Christ. I recognize myself as source. Let each word land. The first time, you might feel resistance thoughts that say that's blasphemy. Or, who am I to claim this? Those are archonic implants. Don't fight them. Just speak the phrase again. Say it 3 times, minimum. You'll know when it lands because something in your chest will release a tightness you didn't know you were holding. After speaking it 3 times, sit in silence for 5 minutes. Don't analyze. Just observe how your awareness sits differently in your body. Do this daily for 7 days. Same time, same space. By day 7, the recognition is established. Mental noise decreases. Emotional reactivity drops. Fear of death starts dissolving not through philosophy, but through direct knowing. After 7 days, you don't need to do it ritually anymore, but return to the phrase anytime fear arises. Speak it, and within seconds, the contraction releases because you just reminded yourself what you are, and what you are is untouchable. Jesus taught chosen ones a single phrase that does 2 things simultaneously: destroys the soul trap and activates the Christ within. Not 2 separate practices, 1 recognition. I am the Christ. I recognize myself as source. When you speak this phrase with awareness, the frequency of amnesia that allows the trap to function dissolves instantly, and the Christ consciousness that's been dormant, waiting for recognition, floods into active awareness. You don't escape the trap and then activate the Christ. The activation is the escape. They're the same event. The secret book of John preserved this teaching through 16 centuries of suppression because some truths are too powerful to fully erase. The church executed people for teaching it. The archons deploy massive interference when chosen ones discover it, because once you recognize what you are, their entire system of control loses power over you, not just in this life, but permanently. If you're speaking the phrase tonight, do 3 things right now. First, comment "I am the Christ" below to witness your recognition. Second, subscribe because advanced activations using this phrase are coming next. Third, share this video with other chosen ones before it's suppressed again. Do all 3 now, then tonight, speak it 3 times out loud and feel what happens. Your escape begins with recognition.